been about 2 weeks since Kunos released their major update 1.9 for the Assetto Corsa Competizione, and they say it's a game changer. However, I actually want to find out, does it change my game? There are certainly a lot of updates with the 1.9 release. This comes with 3 very nice cars, an amazing new circuit, and a lot of physics updates. The list of updates for the 1.9 release is very long. I mean, to summarize, we have 3 beautiful new cars, a new racing track, and probably most importantly, a long list of physics updates. I actually don't want to go into this list in detail because 1, it's very long, and 2, there are other YouTube channels that have actually gone into this detail. And honestly, I would recommend you to go to Aries YouTube channel where he's actually gone into detail about these updates, and you can actually find the link below. So in this video, I'm going to be driving the new Ferrari 296 GT3 car around the Valencia Riccardo Tormo circuit. And whilst I'm driving, I actually want to give you my feedback to see how these physics updates have improved the drivability and the handling of the car. Saying this, as an ex-racing driver, I have expectations, I have requirements, but most of all, it should all make sense, because effectively Assetto Corsa Competizione are making these improvements, these updates, to be as realistic as possible. So as someone who's had some driving experience before, I want to see if all these changes actually make sense. Well, in that case, let's see if this changes my game and makes sense. Alright, Ferrari 296 GT3, Valencia Riccardo Tormo racing track, and all the new updates we have. Let's see how it goes. Alright, first things first, all I can say is there's a huge amount of update in the tire model. You're talking about the heat distribution, the pressure range, the flex, the rolling resistance. So, I mean, we're talking about a huge change here, and this pretty much affects the whole handling, the whole dynamics of the car. And honestly, the minute you go out of the pit, you feel like something's changed. The force feedback has changed. It's so strange to feel like everything's actually crisper, smoother. And I don't want to say it makes sense straight away, but it kind of does. I feel straight away more connected with the road. I mean, I can feel the tires have more understanding of what's happening on the asphalt. I know you're going to probably say you just came out of the pits and you're making these assumptions or these remarks, but honestly, you feel it straight away. I mean, that's the biggest difference I felt as I drove this new update for the first time. You just felt that the rolling resistance weight, initial weight in the steering wheel, and that you didn't have that previously in the previous, let's say, releases. So I think that's made a huge difference, and for that actually I've had to go back and change my force feedback settings. I've had to change the inertia, I've had to change the friction to actually, you know, make up for the tire model change. So yeah, that I think has been a huge positive update when you look at this new release. And honestly, you know, thinking of the tire temperature, or no, the tire pressure ranges, the previous, you know, release, you were looking at tire pressures, optimum tire pressures of 27.4 to the 27 highs maybe, but now obviously with this new release it suggests that you drive between 26 and 27 psi, so we've got a broader range. Obviously it's going to take time to find the optimum pressure, but I remember from previous experience that with the previous release you used to be able to drive around 27.4 and 24.8, and anything below or above that was really difficult to drive. So as I've pretty much done my second lap out of the pits, I'm looking at tire pressures, you know, high 25s, low 26s. Let's see as we drive if we're gonna go above the 26 and maybe get close to the 27 range. So we talked about the rolling resistance, which I think makes a huge difference to the force feedback and the tire pressures. And honestly, I think another thing to mention is the heat distribution. Obviously from the notes I've read, they've made a huge, let's say they've taken notice of the inner, middle and the outer sections of the wheel to have temperature differences that actually are, let's say, more realistic. Oh, that's a bit too much. With that, they recommend you shouldn't have a difference of more than 15 degrees between the inner and the outer section of your wheel, which obviously does make sense. Another update that I've kind of like, and it's in the positive direction, is actually the bump stops on the suspension travel. Previously, you used to hit some sort of stop that actually wasn't a stop. It felt like a stop, but the suspension travel still continued. But now we do actually have a real physical stop. So maybe next lap when I go over a big bump, I'm going to be able to feel the suspension or the suspension travel hitting the bump stop, and that's going to actually, you know, reflect on my force feedback. So let's talk about this car now. I like it. It's actually relatively easy to drive. It kind of fishtails a lot. The back is very loose, but once you understand how the car drives, it's actually quite fun. I'm actually driving at the aggressive setup now. I haven't gone to make any changes with the setup. I just wanted to choose a default setup that the game pretty much presented. So I'm driving the aggressive setup now, and I actually am quite enjoying it. The car is very sensitive for trail braking, so you got to get your trail braking right. The acceleration is really good. Top speed is good as well. Missed the apex a little bit. Let's focus on the exit. And yeah, even with the TC settings relatively low, I can really control the rear of the car. And honestly, maybe it's something I have to complain a little bit. It's a little too easy, I think, trying to control the rear of the car. If you got good reflexes and have a good understanding of, you know, how to control the car, you can really just make an opposite lock and the car basically, you know, continues going straight, or actually turns the corner, or you know, you basically are not spinning. Anyhow, the track, this new Valencia circuit, I've driven here in I think 2006, 2007 maybe, in the GP2 series, and it's exactly as I remember it. I'm trying to, you know, remember all these details, and honestly, I think it's modeled really, really well. And I kind of remember how much I actually enjoyed this circuit back in the day. It is pretty much like a bike circuit. All the corners are pretty wide, the exits are really wide. But, you know, driving with a fast car with some sort of downforce, you do enjoy taking these long corners pretty fast. And it's technical as well. Like, this section is pretty technical. You're pretty much braking as you're turning. Oh, nearly lost it there. You see, these kind of slides I'm able to control very, very easily. And I don't want to say I'm a miracle maker when it comes to, you know, controlling the car when it's out of shape, but sometimes it feels a little too easy. I had a few moments with the Porsche as well, the new Porsche, and that's a very fast car as well, by the way. It's pretty much, I think it's maybe even like driven at the limit. It's faster probably than this car as well. It took me less lap times to get to a speed with the Porsche, It lacks a bit of straight line speed, but you know, still a very, very fun car to drive. Good traction as well, good acceleration, but I think the change of direction of the Porsche is pretty much where it excels. Anyhow, but yeah, I had a few huge moments with the Porsche as well, and I was able to control it, you know, some massive oversteers, and I mean, yeah, I'm no god when it comes to driving, or else I'd be racing in Formula 1, but you know, some things still maybe need to improve. Saying improvement is a huge improvement so far. Also, I want to talk about the Lamborghini as well. I had some time to drive that as well, and comparing the three cars, I think the easiest probably is the Lamborghini. More understeer, safer car to drive. When it comes to fun, the fun factor, I know I'd be between this and the Porsche, but the Porsche, you know, you got the sound, it's screaming at you. That's a lot of fun as well. This is probably a more balanced car than the Porsche, and it's got some good straight line speed. So depending on what your driving style is, I'd say choose the car that suits you most. The thing I like about this new tire model is you can actually feel the flex as you're in the corner, and when you have that little bit more flex, the car actually does understeer or oversteer at times. Yeah, I had a bit of understeer initial, oversteer mid there. And it has become, let's say, more fun to drive because you feel more connected to the car, which is nice, obviously. Which is what you want, what you'd expect, what you require. So I think on that note, it's all in the positive. I know I'm driving a little wild because I'm trying to talk and drive at the same time, but you know, at the end of the day, I can tell you definitely that I am having fun. So, are we in the right direction? Is Kunos in the right direction? Are we preparing something? Are we cooking something for the new Assetto Corsa 2? Probably, yeah. It's definitely an improvement. There are still some things I'm not too fond of, and I think, you know, there were some of the reasons why people didn't like the Assetto Corsa Competizione game for particular reasons. I was one of them as well. I wasn't really connected to the car. I didn't feel connected to the car as I was driving it. Now I feel more connected, definitely. And I think some people's, you know, perception of this game is going to change with this new update. I'm enjoying this circuit as well. I'm not going to lie. This is why I'm probably just driving and talking. Just throw the car in, the front's quite grippy, wait for it to balance out. Once you got a good exit, or you think you've got a good exit, just floor it. Yeah, you rely on the traction control, but you know, you still got to be relatively patient with the throttle. At least, you know, be relatively straight when you exit the corners, or else you're just gonna have oversteer and, you know, probably lose more time. You see, I went over the bump there on purpose to feel the bump stop, and straight away, big hit on the front right tire, and yeah. So it's good to actually know there's a physical stop there, because previously I think what you could do is you could run the car relatively low, very stiff. Obviously it'd be difficult to drive, but then you'd have less drag, you'd have a lower center of gravity, so you're kind of tricking the game. But now I don't think you're going to be able to do that, so at least we're more realistic on that front. Honestly, I've been talking a lot now. I can't remember what I had on my list, but I think I've covered enough. So let's just stop and do a little debrief. So that was me doing about 9-10 laps at Valencia circuit with a 296 GT3 car, and you're probably wondering why I look so tired. It's been a while since I've driven this much, plus I'm still a little jet lagged from the cross-Atlantic flights. Update 1.9, a definite improvement, definitely in the right direction. I much prefer this new tire model, especially, you know, with respect to how the car's handling and how my feedback is basically returning to me, or how I'm getting my feedback. Because, as I said whilst I was driving, you actually feel more connected to the car. The steering force or input you have to put between, let's say, 0 to about 20 degrees makes much more sense. It's actually more full, let's say. With this, the new tire flex model is also something I was quite impressed and happy with it as well, because you really felt it as you were, you know, pushing the car to or beyond its limit. And I think that kind of, you know, flexibility, let's say, gave you more of an opportunity to play and find the limits of the car maybe easier as well. And in addition, obviously, we got the new tire temperature range and the heat generation patterns, everything. I mean, I would need to spend a lot more time to fully understand it, but from these 9-10 laps, they all make sense to me as well. I know the list of updates, let's say improvements, include the bump stop simulation, the damper simulation, the electronics logic, but for me, I think it's mostly, or I could say all about the new tire model. So probably with all these comments I've made, you're wondering, has it changed my game? Not 100%, definitely improvement, but does it make sense? Yes, it definitely makes sense. So let's give a round of applause or a pat on the back or a kiss or a hug, whatever, to the Assetto Corsa Competizione team. Saying that, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I really hope I've managed to reflect my feelings on this new update. I've also done a couple of laps in the other new cars, the Huracan and the Porsche, and you can watch them at the end of the video. So that's it for today. Hope you liked the video, and if you've liked it, please thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to us, please do subscribe, and I guess I'll see you in the next videos. See you then. Bye.